Hello world. My name is Ashley Collins. Welcome to my YouTube channel, The Breakup Diaries. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being present. Thank you so much for taking the time to view my content in general. I greatly appreciate it. There are so many videos to watch on YouTube and there's so many podcasts to listen to, yet you chose to watch this one. I really appreciate it. I hope you trip over a pot of gold today. And if you do, slide me a coin. My voice is cracked a little bit there. I work really hard creating daily content on Instagram and on Twitter. You should totally follow me. My handle is the Aunt of Dragons. Once again, slower. The Aunt of Dragons. It is a Game of Thrones reference, which comes back this summer. I was talking to someone the other day and I was like, when does Game of Thrones come back? And they're like, 2019. And I was like, what year is it? I'm a huge Game of Thrones nerd. It's gonna be a very emotional season for me because it's the final one. Even though the books aren't done yet, which is very frustrating. This video is not about Game of Thrones, though. It's not about Game of Thrones. Let's talk about, should sex ed be taught in schools? Long story short, yes, it should. So before we dive deeper into this conversation, let's look at both sides of the spectrum. Why it should and why it should not be taught. I tried to make unbiased research, and I try not to get very emotional when I'm talking about things that I'm very passionate about. So this is not going to be an emotional video at all. So first of all, let's talk about my personal experience with sex education. I do live in the United States, so I know that it is different in Sweden and the Netherlands. So if you're watching in that country, first of all, hello, hi, that's awesome. Nice to meet you. Can we be friends? I'm going to tilt my camera up because it was leaning a little bit. Okay, I'm not going to re-record this though. Okay. So, I started my period in the 3rd grade, 4th grade. I'll never forget what happened. I was in, recess, that's what the word was called. And, I started bleeding and I completely freaked out, but I didn't tell anyone about it, right? What I did was I went home and I hid my underwear in my little play drawer. I don't know why I hid it. I don't know why I just didn't throw it away. Okay. So I did that for a couple of days and then it just stopped. And I was like, okay, I'm cool. I'm not dying. That's cool. And then it happened again the next month. And then, I hid my underwear again. And then the next month, my mom found it and she's like, Ashley, you're a woman now. And I started crying. I started crying and I'm like, I don't want to be a woman. Oh my God, it was so funny. Okay, fast forward to my sex education class, which was in 6th or 7th grade. It was 2 weeks and we primarily talked about all the STDs. I don't need to go into detail of what the STDs are. Hopefully you know what they are. And we also talked about drugs and drunk driving. And basically it was an abstinence, what's the word I'm looking for? Abstinence. Oh, someone give me the word. Someone give me the word. It was just basically an abstinence program where it's like, just don't have sex or you'll get an STD and die. So yeah. That's what it was, an abstinence-based course, my sex education. And when you teach that kind of education to students, it doesn't necessarily work. Mississippi has a course like that, and they have one of the highest teen pregnancies in the whole entire country. I'm going to try to avoid using the word world. Like I said, I'm talking from the United States perspective. They don't work. Teaching abstinence in schools doesn't work because, and I think, and I grew up in the 90s where we didn't have the internet in my household. We still don't have the internet in my household. Well, no, yes, we do. We have Wi-Fi, but we don't have laptops in my house. But I knew what porn was, and because you have the VHS tapes and the magazines, so a lot of what I learned about sex was through that. The way I learned about sex was through porn, which is not healthy. I remember once my mom found a magazine that I was looking at, and she was like, look at this woman. This woman's body is beautiful, right? And I was like, yeah. And she said, but this woman, is doing this with consent. She didn't use that word specifically, but she said that, this woman is showing her body because she's getting paid to, and she wants to, but you don't have to do that. And that was the extent of my sex education in my household, was to just say that you don't have to show your body if you don't want to, which I kind of do now. Okay, so that was my personal history with sex education. I'm going to fix the camera again because I don't know why it keeps leaning, but I'm not going to re-record this because I feel like I'm on a roll. Okay, so why are people hesitant to teaching sex education in schools? Other than the in my personal opinion, the ignorant belief that children are pure, that if we talk about it, that means they're going to want to practice it. But if you they're already exposed to it now. I mean, with the hypersexualization of society now, with on Twitter, on Facebook, and on all the social media platforms, it's easier now to access porn than it's ever been. And with God, I don't know why the camera keeps fucking leaning. Okay, hopefully it stays there. Also with the music now, the city that I live in, the dances that the girls are taught are so hypersexualized, and I don't understand why it's okay to teach girls how to twerk or drop it low, but we can't talk to them about consent and safe sex. Why is that so uncomfortable? I can teach my daughter how to twerk, but I don't want to talk to her about sex. That makes no sense to me. Another reason why people don't want to talk about sex education in schools is because it conflict with their religious beliefs. A lot of religions, not a lot, some religions highly encourage abstinence, which is totally okay. Like, do your thing. But and I think that when we talk about sex education, I think that we're focusing too heavily on the act of sex. And I think it's not only the act of sex, but it's also teaching you about your anatomy. I made some notes in my book about things that I wish I had learned in my sex education class. Hygiene. That for the female body, and a lot of this is going to be from the female perspective. Forgive me. Not forgive me. Hygiene, that your body naturally flushes itself out, that you don't. I read this one article or tweet, I don't remember what it was, that said if you wash your private parts with like alcohol, like the stuff that you put on wounds, that's how right after sex, that's how you clean yourself. And it's like, it sounds silly, it sounds foolish, but someone actually had this thought, and they're still practicing that. I know for me, I used to douche, and which is like not a good thing. It's not very good because your body naturally cleanses itself. You don't need to use scented soaps down there for men and for women. Your body actually does it, just like using lukewarm water and an unscented soap if you feel like you do need to, like, you know, that's something that should be talked about, but they don't. And this is something that I just learned like a couple of years ago, and I'm almost 30, you know. Talking about going further when it comes to hygiene, talking about UTIs. Peeing right after sex, that way you don't get a UTI. And I also know that some men get UTIs too, and a lot of guys don't know that. A lot of men don't realize that, like, they can get UTIs too. It doesn't only happen if you have a vagina, you know. So talking about that, helping to prevent that, because UTIs are never any fun. I don't know anyone who enjoys having UTI. It's very uncomfortable. Talking about consent and what the true definition of consent is. And I just see a lot of cases of people saying things like, I don't know and I didn't know. And it's like, as opposed to putting the blame on the victim, why don't we put the blame on ourselves, on each and every one of us? We're not talking to them about consent because, like, we're so uneasy to talk to them about it when it's such an easy conversation. It's such an easy conversation. Don't randomly put your hands on people if they don't want you to. And for some reason, people, like, even adult males or adult women don't get that, you know? Yeah. Talking about consent and sex ed is so massively important because obviously there is some confusion, and it's okay to have that confusion, and it's our job to answer that question for them. Don't let a music video. Well, a music video should teach them about consent. It should teach them about consent. I mean, like, if they're gonna be watching music videos, like, why don't we make it more educational? You know, that's an idea. Talking about, which I know it sounds a little bit cheesy, a little bit hammy, but talking about love and heartbreak and coping with that, because a lot of high school is the age where like people start dating us, when you get your high school sweethearts and stuff like that. And talking about healthy relationships and talking about abusive relationships, and talking about codependency. A lot of high school soulmates, whatever the word is, whatever, they have this kind of codependency where they're like attached to the hip to each other. And we need to talk about like those healthy boundaries and relationships. I have this one student who is always on the phone with her boyfriend, always on the phone, like on the video, like in the middle of the rehearsal, like he's just the phone is just propped up right there, and he's just watching. And I'm like, don't you have like homework to do? Don't you want to play video games? Like, you guys don't have to like always be talking to each other like that. Like, that's the kind of thing that should be discussed in sex ed. Also, it's going to sound really stupid and really silly, but I think that they should talk about skincare in the class as well. Because, like, as your body evolves, you know, like, that's when you're going to have the acne. That's when your skin's going to go from, like, usually children have dry skin. Some people are going to go to oily skin or combination skin. And talking about that, you know, talking about the body positivity, how to take care of your skin, not taking the job of your dermatologist or your doctor, definitely not, but just discussing like the basics. If you do find your skin is oily, using not oil-based products, and they can like, because you know, some parents aren't very equipped in that knowledge. A lot of parents aren't equipped in that knowledge. So like, just like having like a one-day discussion of like, here's how to do like over-the-counter stuff you can take care of, but like definitely talk to your dermatologist if you even have a dermatologist, you know? So not letting them feel ashamed or weird about it. And I don't know why I feel like that's appropriate for sex ed, but like, if you're going to talk about like the evolution of the body, why not talk about like how it's going to affect your skin, and also how it's going to affect like your breasts and like your body hair and stuff like that, you know? Which falls, I guess that falls under hygiene. I think that falls under hygiene. Like skincare falls under hygiene. What else? I need to pull the book up. What else? I think like I'm basically almost done. That's dope. Just basically, and I also think that people are wary about what kids are taught in school, because they're like, oh, I should be able to teach them that because like I'm the parent and I know what's best for them. But you are kind of biased, you're biased on what you can teach your children, because you're teaching them from your raising, from your environment. But they're exposed to a new leaning. They're exposed to a new environment. Like the world is changing, you know, like the world is always evolving, you know. They shouldn't be taught about sex through the CW, you know, like Riverdale, you know. They should be taught about sex from a trained professional. And although you are their parent and you love them, but you aren't a trained professional. You're not a trained professional to teach them calculus, so you're not a trained professional to teach them about sex. And I know what you're thinking, like, what makes you think that teacher, the PE teacher or the science teacher is science teacher for sure, or the English teacher is capable of teaching them sex ed. I'm glad that you're thinking that. I think that it should be a course that one or two teachers, or maybe an outside course that is provided that teaches specifically about sex ed. Yeah, it should be, you know? And I think that's gonna like tick off a lot of parents, because they're like, oh, I know it's best for my child, but you're a little biased because you want your child to raise, you have a vision of what your child to be. You have a vision of what your child is going to turn out to be. And and sometimes it kind of hinders their growth. So I think it takes a village to raise a child. So opening up that space. And also there's nothing wrong with like taking that knowledge that they learn in school and sitting down with them at the kitchen table and being like, okay, yeah, like let's talk about this, let's discuss this, you know, opening up that door to be able to talk to your child so they don't feel uneasy, you know, because like it is very uneasy and it is very awkward. Like, I don't talk to my mom about sex at all. I don't even like talking to my mom about my dating life at all. Primarily because she's gonna judge me. But like, because she's like, you're dating someone else again? Like, yeah. Okay. Treating students less like they're employees and more like they're the future, you know? Treating them that they are accountable for their actions now as teenagers, as opposed to, oh, you're dumb, you don't know anything, you'll learn later. But like, when is later? You know, are they going to learn the hard way in college, learning the hard way what consent is? You know, like, we can prevent that now by talking about this kind of stuff now, you know? And they're gonna have to learn the hard way on their wedding night that when they're 30 years old, that their hymen may not break because they are a virgin. Also teaching them that there's nothing wrong with being a 30-year-old virgin. Teaching them that as well. You know, that doesn't make you better or less than anyone. Camera is leaning. I don't know why it's doing that today. Okay. I had some numbers, but, you know, you can Google that right now. There's a very high teen pregnancy rate in the United States. And I know in one eye, being pregnant is a blessing. I get that. But being a teen mom at 15, you're already still a child yourself. I don't think people get that. We shouldn't be teaching I saw this one comment on this video that said we shouldn't be teaching sex for pleasure. Like, so so we're teaching them that sex is only meant for reproduction. Okay, I get that in one sense, but sex is something that's pleasurable and it shouldn't be painful. So when you say that we shouldn't teach them to have sex for pleasure, you're denying a certain part of their humanness, you know? Conversation that won't increase it. Oh yeah, having the conversation won't increase their chances of having sex. If anything, it'll increase their chances of waiting longer, and it's also going to increase their chances of having protective sex. And I know like the birth control subject is very iffy for a lot of parents for some reason, but birth control isn't a sign that you're having sex. Birth control is is used for multiple things when it comes to your reproduction. And I think that stigma of birth control is it's like a bad taste in people's mouths, but it's so much more than just like a thing for protective sex. You know, it's used for so much more than that. I have a friend who highly encourages calling the body parts what they are as children are growing up, not calling it the wee wee or the pee pee, you know, like calling it a penis, calling it vagina. Like, that's those little things that you can do at a very young age to help transition them so they're not so oblivious. It's just important that we have these talks in general. Like I said in the video like 1,000 times, they're already learning about it anyway. They already know about it anyway. Everything's so hypersexualized, and I keep picturing like the Cardi B video with her with her twerking naked, like like sit down and explain this to them, as opposed to being like, you're gonna learn it later. Yeah, they're gonna learn the hard way later, and it's our jobs as the adults. It's our job to help prepare them for that, so they're not, you know, so that these kind of instances in these situations don't happen as much anymore. They're going to happen, but the number should be less. Teaching respect for both the male and the female body. That is it. This video is unnecessarily long. I'm just very passionate about this subject. I know that we think that ignorance is bliss, but ignorance also gets you in trouble. And I know that like a lot of people are afraid that like this is going to go totally against my religion, and like if something as small as talking about like an everyday thing, sex is an everyday thing. If something as small as sex is going to make someone question their religion, that it shouldn't sway someone as much. It shouldn't sway them as much in the first place. Okay, cool. Well, thank you for taking my sex education class. I hope you learned something. I hope I wasn't too vulgar, because I know that YouTube is taking a lot, well, not a lot, it's taking some of the the vulgar ones down. So I tried to keep it rated PG-13. What are some of your thoughts of what you wish you had learned in sex ed? Because it's very important. Like, I mean, just overall, like, I'm just very big on hygiene, because it's like, yeah, it's very important. Okay, I'm going to end this video now. Okay, thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing. Bye. I appreciate you. I adore you. Be nice to someone today, because it really freaking matters. Bye.